her estate could be worth as much as $474 million. And that reports that she left it all to her son Daniel, but he's dead. So who gets the cash? Joining us now, Christopher Simon, civil law attorney. Christopher, good to have you here. So I guess the assumption is if she left the will, she did it before the birth of her little girl. Would the little girl automatically stand to get whatever Anna Nicole Smith had?
In many scenarios, absolutely. I mean, the real question here is if she did draft a will, when did she execute it? Was it before she was potentially married to Stern? Was it before or after her son died? It's a lot of questions we just don't know the answers to right now.
That's right. And if he was the one to draft the will, that's suspect, right? I mean, would that hold up in a court of law if he is the one who drafted it and he is potentially the one to come into this windfall?
That's a great point. It's almost worse for the child if there is a will, because what we're going to have to look at then is going to be issue number one: what was Stern's role in this? Did he actually draft it? It's impermissible for him to both be a beneficiary of the will and to have been an executor on it. Second question is, what kind of influence did he exert over her?
Right.
We've heard from many sources she had some problems with substances. Was she in a capacity to be able to sign a will? Is it going to be valid and binding in that respect? And finally, what court is going to decide this?
Right. Is it going to be a Bahamian court or an American court?
That all depends upon her residency. And as you've probably read, there's a question. She apparently has told the Bahamian courts that she was a resident of the Bahamas, and that's because of the ongoing dispute regarding the mansion there by the waterside. So that remains to be resolved. We don't know what probate body will be sitting to decide whether or not, if there is one, whether or not that will is valid. And the last thing this child needs is for those issues to be aired having to do with undue influence.
Yeah, I mean, you really feel for this little baby who's being cared for not by any of the potential fathers now or any blood relative, just somebody in the Bahamas. Let's talk a little bit about paternity. Obviously, there's our four possible dads here, and we've been talking about this over the last few days. Maybe Howard K. Stern, maybe Larry Burkhead, maybe Zsa husband, maybe even J. Howard Marshall. So how quickly can that be resolved, and how? I mean, what do? You have to get a DNA test from all those four guys, each one who is making the claim. What is the quickest, most efficient, and best way to establish paternity?
Well, the quickest way, obviously, is simply to do the test on the child. And if the child were in the United States, that may have already been done. Unfortunately, we're faced with a massive jurisdictional problem. They're in another country. The country will likely not honor the orders coming out of the California court. My information is that California judge, in fact, already did order the child to submit to a paternity test. But the validity of that order in the Bahamas is doubtful at best.
So the information might be out there. We just don't know what it is.
Exactly. And the second question really is, let's assume a Bahamas court does consider this. Are they going to allow a paternity test, a DNA test, to trump their common law? There may be provisions in their law that make, because Stern was on the death certificate, that perhaps because he was married to her, we really don't know the answer to that yet. That may actually trump the DNA. They may not consider it.
Right. And yet, even if he were to be established as the father, a lot of questions about him and whether he played any role in perhaps getting Anna Nicole Smith and maybe even her son some of the drugs that they were said to have been taking. Can that make you a quote-unquote unfit parent or guardian, even if you were proven to be the biological father?
Absolutely. If it gets to that point, that's what I'm saying. It would almost be better that there were no will, because the testimony on the subject is going to get extremely messy. You would think of all the families in the world that would have learned about the dangers of litigating improperly drafted estates documents. It would be this young lady, but that may not be the case.
Well, we just hope the best for that little baby, that somebody nice winds up raising her. Thank you so much, Christopher.
Thank you.
All right, coming up on Fox News Live, Illinois Senator Barack